Anna. You want to say goodbye?
I'm done goodbye.
Next advertisement is, I forgot his name, Chocofour. Yeah. What's the first name?
Hi, I'm Thomas Radeke, and last year I had a little talk about unusual materials and cycles. And actually, after having that talk, I kept on experimenting with a lot of stuff and also buying new gadgets to try out. And one of those gadgets is this Ricoh Theta S spherical camera, which I want to share my experiences about with you. And the cool thing about that Ricoh Theta S camera is that it takes full equirectangular panoramas in just one shot. So, yeah, I think it makes a lot of things a lot easier, especially carrying around a classical rig. The classical way of taking panorama shots is what you can see on the left, quite heavy DSLR, which comes in at 2 kilograms usually, and you also have a panoramic head and a photo tripod, which you need to carry around if you want to make a decent panorama. So if we add all those weights together, we easily get 4.5 kilograms, and I think in the price range, it will probably also go easily beyond €1,000. And if you look at that little camera there, it just costs 400 euros. Usually it's a bit cheaper. Currently it's at, I think, 340 on Amazon. And it just weighs 300 grams. And then you just also take a very cheap selfie stick tripod, and both together don't even weigh 1 kilogram, which I think is pretty awesome. And now let's look at a little bit about the workflow here. So on the left you can see a little visualization of what it probably looks like if you have to stitch all of the photos that you can take with a DSLR trying to make a panorama. So anybody who has ever tried that will probably know. You have to rotate the camera all the time, and even if you're fast, it can easily take up to 15 minutes, and you end up with a couple of hundred images, which you then have to stitch in some kind of application. And with a spherical camera, things get a lot easier. The basic setup is just like you can see here right now. So I just usually set up the camera in some place and connect to its own Wi-Fi hotspot, and then I go into hiding behind some wall and use an Android app called Auto Bracketing for Theta S, which basically just allows me to set up all the bracketing shots that I need to get an HDRI. And after everything's done, I just copy all of those images to a PC and use the free and open source application Luminance HDR to generate a high dynamic range version of the images that I just took earlier. The cool thing is, with the spherical images, I don't even need to stitch them because the camera was on a tripod. And it took a photo in all of the directions at once, so no stitching. Unfortunately, the Luminance HDR application usually only considers the EV compensation settings in images. So if you know DSLRs, you can set EV compensation to -2 or +2, stuff like this. And since the camera here is not doing that, I have written my own script, which basically takes all of the exposure times and the ISO settings, converts that to absolute EVs, because there's a formula for that, and then feeds all of that into Luminance HDR to get a readily usable EXR file, which I can just load up into Blender. And in case the default brightness of that EXR file is not correct, so you basically just put in the background image and you set the brightness to 1.0, and it is too bright or too dark, you can use the Linux command line to EXR normalize, which is part of the Linux package EXR tools, to basically just fix the brightness in the EXR file itself, so you never need to do it again. So this is what it looks like in Luminance HDR. This is an indoor scenario that I shot at my own institution, and you can also see the dynamic range bar at the top, the blue one. And okay, this is an indoor scenario. There's not so much stuff to see here, and it also works pretty well. But if you go outdoors, there are going to be problems. So even if you have a camera that is fine for indoors, at outdoors, even at the lowest exposure settings, you will probably have an overexposed sun, just like in this example here. And it actually looks pretty horrible. This here is Suzanne that's supposed to have sun in her face, but it doesn't. So in this case here, I have to fix the HDR in post. And the post in this case is Blender again. So I just loaded up the HDR, the missing sunspot, and made a fake sphere, or fake sun basically, with a brightness of, I think, 1000. And you probably all know that you can render equirectangular pictures from Blender. So I did that with this scene here, and basically created a fixed EXR file, which I then used to render a corrected version, which you can see on the right now. And I think the difference is quite striking. And as a little surprise to all of our conference goers here, I have also made an HDRI of this very room here just yesterday after everybody left. And this is basically what it looks like in front here. And also I want everybody of you to have it. More on that on the next slide. So to summarize, the good thing about this camera setup here is it's very cheap. It's also very fast because you can get done the whole process in under 5 minutes. Shooting and stitching. It's also very lightweight, literally, and it actually produces usable results. And the not so good things are the resolution and sharpness. It just fails in comparison to a DSLR panorama, but it's good enough. And also the dynamic range, especially outdoors, is not what you'd expect, probably. So you will probably have to fix some things. So, and on to the downloads. In the downloads package, you'll get the finished HDR image, which I did from the theater here. And you also get all the original exposure images in case you want to try the stuff yourself. And also included on that site is my script, which I use to basically just select all the files that I want to convert into an HDR. Just do a right click in my image, my file manager, select my script, and it basically outputs an EXR finished. So thanks for listening, and happy HDRing.